I love James Bond. He's the quintessential super spy, a Hollywood icon, a self-indulgent white male power fantasy. Needless to say, I'm in. This spy guy has been in the movies for half the time that movies have existed. And funnily enough, if you have the same character for 58 years, he's gonna grow and change a little bit. From the always suave Sean Connery, to the fan favorite Roger Moore, to the emotionally destroyed Daniel Craig. Every actor has put their own spin on the guy. But none of those are actually, James Bond. Those are all actors. James Bond is a movie character. But if you think that the movie character was just some brain dropping that Ian Fleming over here had, then you're disrespecting my main man, William Stephenson. But EJ, who is William Stephenson? That's the point of the video, you ninny. By the way, yes, my hair is down. I dressed up in a full tuxedo to look like James Bond for you. I can let my hair down a little bit, okay? William Stephenson was born in the prairie region of Manitoba, Canada, which is crazy to me because whenever I think of James Bond, I immediately go to like English sophistication. Not that that really exists. But no, this guy came out of Cornfield Central. His real birth name was actually William Stauber. However, he was raised by his aunt and uncle, Kristen and Vigfus Stephenson, so he changed his name to respect them. Stephenson left school young, but not for lack of intelligence. That's a pun. You'll see later. After leaving school, he ended up working as a telegrapher until the start of World War I, where he switched careers and became infantry. He was sent to Britain in 1916, and after being deployed, he was injured in a gas attack soon after. Because he was too hurt to continue as a foot soldier, he decided to take it easy, relax a little bit, and instead be a military plane pilot, which is a much safer bet, for obvious reasons. Truth is, though, I can't crap on his logic. He was right. He was an ineffective soldier on the ground. He was considered really small and not really too useful. However, as soon as he became a pilot, he was killing it. A fellow pilot, Gene Tumney, hyped him up saying, everybody admired him. He was quick as a dash of lightning, fast, clever featherweight. He was a fearless but quick thinker. He mentioned being a featherweight, by the way, because when Stephenson was stationed in France, he figured why not join this boxing competition called the Inter-Allied Games at Amiens, where he scooped up a championship for fun. After scoring 8.5 victories against German planes and dogfights, he actually ended up being captured and taken as a German prisoner of war. That meant that he ended up experiencing World War I longer than a lot of his fellow compatriots, seeing as he was in captivity until December of 1918. The war ended in November. Anyways, once he did return home, he was considered a highly respected pilot. He won captain status, a distinguished flying cross, which is like a black belt in plane martial arts. All this despite being considered quiet, unassuming, and in the words of the officer who let him in to fight the war, he passed as a bugler. I don't know about you, but that's a pretty big insult to me. I don't like bugles that much. After World War I, Stephenson went on to make a boatload of money with pretty weird inspirations. Turns out when he was a German prisoner, he was really excited and fascinated by their can openers and how efficient those were. So he patented it and tried selling it all across his hometown of Winnipeg. Unfortunately, the can opener thing didn't really work out. So he moved to England and became a multi-millionaire industrialist at the head of General Radio Company. Then, when he married Mary French Simmons, the daughter of an American tobacco tycoon, did somebody say power couple? Because of his booming business, it wasn't long before Stephenson established business relationships all over Europe, including in Germany. By 1934, he was already meeting up with German higher-ups in aviation and military and manufacturing, which means that he knew about Blitzkrieg and the Nazi doctrine way before anyone else. He took this info right to Charles Van Tempest Stewart, the Secretary of State of Air, who promptly ignored him because Charles was a Nazi sympathizer. Bad luck. More on Stephenson being ahead of the times. He actually had a plan to assassinate Hitler in 1938, a year before World War II even started. To be fair, it wasn't the most complex plan in the world. He asked for a young English crack shot with a high-powered telescopic rifle. This was shot down, no pun intended, by Edward Frederick Lilly Wood, who was also known as the first Viceroy of India, who was also known as Lord Halifax, and at that point he was the Foreign Secretary in Parliament. Instead, Halifax told the then Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain to sign the Munich Agreement in 1938. Talk about a big screw-up. But then again, Halifax was alright. By this time, Stephenson already knew that the Nazis weren't only building up a military, but they were hiding it from the world, which was a clear violation of the Treaty of Versailles, which ended World War I. Despite how his government wasn't really listening at the time, the info he was providing soon found a happy home in this tiny little party opposition leader, this nobody named Winston Churchill, after whom my dog is named. Churchill used the information when sparring with Chamberlain in Parliament, and ultimately used it to win the role from him in 1940. These two had a whole beef, but that's the subject of another video. Seriously, they did not like each other. Soon after becoming PM, Churchill sent Stephenson to New York City, where he established a super-secret spy office a year before the US could even enter the war. This office was called the BSC, or British Security Coordination, and it ultimately came to represent a whole bunch of acronyms like MI6, MI5, SOE, PWE, across a whole bunch of countries like both Americas and the Caribbean. I know the Americas aren't a country, but those are the areas they were in, okay? Excuse me. At the same time as he was running this giant organization, Stephenson somehow found the time to also serve as a close advisor to FDR, the American president at the time. He was actually the guy who kind of came up and told FDR, hey buddy, just wanted to let you know that everyone's spying on each other, and if you don't join the fun, you're gonna fall way behind. So you might want to get on that. This ultimately led to the creation of the OSS, or Office of Strategic Services, which became the Central Intelligence Agency, or CIA. Wait, you're telling me this guy made the CIA? Throughout World War II, Stephenson stayed in New York and just led every spy activity there, I guess. Which is short to mean that he continued building up his already impressive spy network. Oh, and in case that wasn't enough, he was doing it all for free. He got no salary from the British government, even though he was their most important person in the Western Hemisphere at that point. He paid for everything out of pocket. Remember, he was a millionaire, which meant that he funded hundreds of employee salaries and, very importantly, the creation of Camp X, the self-described top-secret World War II spy training school in Canada on December 6th, 1941. The day before the Japanese attacked the American port of Pearl Harbor, and also 59 years, 5 months, and 19 days before Michael Bay's movie Pearl Harbor came out. I don't know which is a worse tragedy, personally. Back to Camp X, where Stephenson spent pretty much the duration of World War II. This was actually the first wartime covert operations training camp in all of North America, and it put in work, okay? It ended up housing a Hydra, which was this radio broadcasting unit they bought from this Philadelphia radio station, which transmitted 30,000 messages a day. In its 4 years of operation, there were a combined total of 2,000 Canadians, Brits, and Americans who graduated from the camp, many of whom went on to become distinguished, cool historical figures in their own right. On September 7th, 1945, 5 days after the end of World War II, Stephenson made a very important contact in the form of Igor Guzhenko. Guzhenko thought that his government was being two-faced, and he was right. On one hand, they were allies of Canada, Britain, and the US. That's what they were telling everyone during World War II. However, on the other body part, they were establishing their own espionage network through the entirety of the Western Hemisphere. As a result of Guzhenko, who many consider to be the most important defector of the entire era, Stephenson found 19 Russian agents within his own ranks. Was this the start of the Cold War? Maybe? After all this, Stephenson finally got the respect he'd been deserving. Not only was he knighted with a special recommendation from Winston Churchill saying, quote, "This one's close to my heart," end quote, but he was also given the Presidential Medal for Merit, which was the highest award that the President of the US could give anyone at that point. And if both of those weren't enough, he also became a companion to the Order of Canada, which was the second highest ranking he could achieve in his own country. Man's got some clout. Stephenson became involved with putting his money towards a whole bunch of different ventures, the most important one being real estate in Bermuda. His distant cousin, Gary Solar, put it really well when he said, quote, "Stephenson had a knack for being at the right place at the right time with the right amount of money available. His consortium of hotels and golf courses in Bermuda were so popular, you could even argue that they're the reason we know Bermuda as the island it is today." Stephenson would die in Bermuda on January 3rd, 1989. He was buried in secret because his last wish to his adoptive daughter Elizabeth was that he didn't want anyone to know he was dead until he had been buried. Even when he wasn't a spy master, I guess he liked keeping some secrets. Thankfully, respect for William Stephenson didn't fade after the man died. In fact, you can even argue it was cemented further. There are streets named after him alongside schools, public libraries. Plus, he's a statue in his honor right in the middle of his hometown of Winnipeg. Why is it that this super spy is constantly referred to as the fictionalized, romanticized version of this real dude? Well, one fair reason is because Ian Fleming, the author of James Bond, was a graduate from Camp X. According to a whole bunch of sources, Fleming really respected Stephenson. Some of the missions that he actually performed under Stephenson became plot points in his James Bond books. There are honestly too many similarities for me to try to point out every single one, but I do want to tell you my favorite, which is that they both love fancy gadgets. Bond's famous exploding pen isn't just some movie knickknack, but a real nitroglycerin-based weapon that Stephenson came across when he was working as a telegrapher before the war in 1913. It was in the possession of John Kravchenko, a famous murderer who is so interesting, might I just say. He's like Houdini if he had charisma to spare and motivation to steal. Topic for another day. I do want to talk about him at some point. Despite all the similarities in achievements, cunning, identification numbers, smarts, all the other insurmountable likenesses, to me the most fair difference is that Stephenson was a spy by accident. You gotta understand, he wasn't trained for his job as a spy master. He was just this business guy who started doing deals with some Germans, found out that they wanted to take over the world, and told his local authorities. Which to me, I'll say it, I think he's cooler than James Bond, even if he's not as suave as Sean Connery. David Bruce, a member of the OSS, stated, "Had it not been for Stephenson's achievements, then it seems to me highly possible that the Second World War would have followed a different and perhaps fatal course." And I think that kind of says it all. Despite being quiet, uneducated, unassuming, short, introverted, and without even having unlocked his full potential as a bugle player, Stephenson changed the course of history. If not for him, we might both be speaking German right now. He built a financial empire, was a key player in the most obvious war against evil we've ever had as a planet, and indirectly gave us some pretty kick-ass movies along the way. Thank you so much for watching. I've been EJ Schwartz, and I hope you've learned something to laugh about today. Hey y'all, if you want to see more videos I've made, or you want to see more stuff like this in the future, why not stop by my YouTube channel? It's just my name, EJ Schwartz. If you like the stuff there, maybe leave a happy little comment, you know? A nice little thumbs up, subscribe maybe. I really do enjoy making content like this, so if this gets a good response, I'll definitely be making more in the future. Special thanks to all these people. I couldn't have made this video without them. I've been EJ Schwartz, and I hope you have a fantastic day.